reaction to this? I mean, was it inevitable when Boris Johnson read this report from the Privileges Committee that he was going to stand down?
No, it wasn't. I mean, he could have, as it were, taken his punishment, the judgment of his peers, have allowed the House of Commons to debate the report, to vote on expelling him. And then, of course, he would have faced the possibility of a by-election which he might lose in his own constituency. What he clearly decided to do was to become the centre of the narrative, to short-circuit that process, to avoid that humiliation, and escape by making himself headline news across the country and indeed across large parts of the world. So this is about Boris, making it all about Boris, because everything Boris does is about Boris. And I think John Curtis has made a very strong argument that this could be the end, that ultimately Boris has been caught out as the liar he's always been, and has been rejected by the political classes. I think that will be the conventional analysis, and the public, to a certain extent, are going along with that. Of course, there is an alternative analysis, which is quite clear in his resignation letter, this manufacturing of grievances, this saying that this is all a witch hunt because he was the man who brought Brexit to the country, that Rishi Sunak is doing a useless job. And in that scenario, what you can see is him hoping that Rishi Sunak fails, that Labour become the government, that they run into trouble, and that the Conservatives turn to him as their hero in their hour of need. You know, this is a man who has sort of satirised, really, Churchill's life in his own interests. And he's certainly hoping to be called back to serve the nation. In some parts of his mind, the other parts of his mind, of course, will be saying, great, I can go off and make loads of money, have as many children as I like, misbehave as much as I like, and I won't be held accountable.
What did you make of the language in that letter? I mean, he's criticising the Privilege Committee, which we mustn't forget is dominated by Conservative MPs and some staunch Brexiteers at that. And also the idea of this witch hunt, the kangaroo court, the criticism of Rishi Sunak.
Well, it was inflammatory, and deliberately so. I mean, people have used the word insurrection, and there is a parallel, of course, between the way Donald Trump is behaving. You know, he too has been caught out by due process looking into his behavior, but chooses to say there's no shred of evidence that I've done anything wrong. This is a conspiracy to do me because I'm a great politician. And that is exactly the route which Boris Johnson, disgracefully, is also taking at this particular moment. I think that the British political culture is still rather different from the American political culture, that he won't get the level of support within the Conservative Party or across the country that Donald Trump can rely on, and that therefore this is a fairly sort of forlorn parody of what Trump's attempting to do. But nonetheless, it is a man who did all he could to whip up his supporters, his dwindling band of supporters in that resignation letter, quite deliberately against the Prime Minister and against the direction in which the Conservative Party is going. And there clearly will be a splinter of the Conservative Party. We've already seen it in that group of Conservatives who met in Bournemouth a few weeks ago, who basically are the Boris Johnson Restoration Party.
How damaging is this, not only for Rishi Sunak, because the Prime Minister's got to face a couple of by-elections, but the Conservative Party as a whole, as it kind of tears itself apart in public?
Well, the history shows that when we've had long regimes of conservatism, or you look back to Margaret Thatcher and John Major, or you look back beyond that to Harold Macmillan and Sir Anthony Douglas-Home, that the Conservatives tend to come to an end after a long period in office when they are fighting amongst themselves and when they are divided. As they say, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And so this is very bad for the Conservatives, and one would anticipate that they would see a drop in the polls. And of course, this is fascinating because it raises the possibility that those people who hitherto have been rather fantasizing about the idea of Labour having an overall majority after the next election will take heart and feel that this is really becoming a live possibility. So that is how Boris Johnson is serving the party that made him Prime Minister, by effectively taking actions to divide it and damage it.